Greetings, Rod Powell here. Welcome back to You Should Get a License, your number one source for inspiration, education, and information on the most underrated career opportunity in business today. Of course, we're talking about a career in the insurance industry. And before we go any further, if you like this content, if you like learning about this industry, if you like hearing from the professionals that we interview within it, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you can stay up to date whenever we release something new. And it really helps us out a lot when you show that support. So you are appreciated. Thank you for being here today. And let's get into today's video. 2.9 million. That's how many professionals are working in the insurance industry as of today. Of that number, only 12% of those individuals are African American or of African descent. That reduces to 3% when you talk about agency principals, managers, or executives. Now, though the numbers may seem small, the contributions have been great, particularly for those who have pioneered opportunities for others like myself to benefit from to this day. So on this edition of You Should Get a License, I want to share 5 Black pioneers in the American insurance industry. Stay tuned. Number 1, William Washington Browne. William Washington Browne was an organizer, a Union soldier during the American Civil War, a teacher, a minister, and the founder of Richmond, Virginia's Grand Fountain of the United Order of True Reformers, an African-American fraternal organization which became the largest and most successful Black business enterprise in the United States between 1881 and 1910. Browne was born enslaved in 1849 in Habersham County, Georgia. He escaped from bondage in 1862 after the U.S. Army occupied Memphis and subsequently served first on a Union gunboat and then in the infantry. He also became well educated along the way. In 1876, after establishing a reputation as a superb speaker and organizer throughout the South, he was invited by the Grand Lodge of Good Templars of Virginia to lead a new branch of the True Reformers in the capital of Richmond. Eventually, he moved there to assume leadership of the Grand Fountain of Virginia. And in 1884, he helped to get a bill passed by the State General Assembly to incorporate the Supreme Fountain Grand United Order of True Reformers. Browne's first insurance effort, the Mutual Benefit and Relief Plan of the United Order of True Reformers, was a savings and death benefit system that actually didn't go that well because it depended on continuous recruitment of new members to pay as beneficiaries. However, in 1885, after further study, they revised the plan, and the True Reformers instituted the first insurance plan of an African-American fraternal society that was based on actuarial calculations of life expectancies. That meant that members and prospective members paid varying fees for their insurance according to their ages. This system proved quite profitable and effective, and soon supported other reformer enterprises. The True Reformers made African-American history in business again when in March of 1888, they received a charter from the state of Virginia to open a savings bank, the savings bank of the Grand Fountain of the United Order of True Reformers. Thus, the bank became the first chartered by African-Americans in American history. William Washington Browne's vision expanded into an enterprise that cultivated a growing Black middle class by offering services that included the savings bank, a real estate company, a retirement home, and a youth and children's division in addition to the insurance company that taught discipline, thrift, and business skills. In 1897, he was diagnosed with cancer, which spread quickly, and he died in Washington, D.C. on December 21st of that same year. After his death, the True Reformers initially continued to prosper, but without his leadership and oversight, mismanagement and scandal eventually caused the failure of the bank and its other ventures in 1910, and by 1935, the order had all but disappeared from public view. Number 2, Alonzo Herndon. Alonzo Franklin Herndon was an African-American entrepreneur who founded and was the first president of Atlanta Life Insurance Company. Born enslaved on June 26, 1858 in Walton County, Georgia, he was freed by the 13th Amendment. Herndon, his mother, younger brother, maternal grandparents, they all became sharecroppers at this point. And he supplemented the family income by working as a day laborer. He was selling peanuts as well, homemade molasses, and also axle grease. Then at age 20, he left his family and moved to Jonesboro, Georgia, where he opened his first barbershop. After developing a great reputation as a barber, his business continued to flourish and he migrated to Atlanta, the largest city in the state, where by 1904, He owned 3 shops, catering to exclusive clientele that included Atlanta's leading lawyers, judges, politicians, and businessmen. As his earnings continued to grow, he began to invest in real estate and a variety of other business ventures, including a failing mutual aid association, which he incorporated as the Atlanta Mutual Insurance Association. When he acquired the company in 1905, it had $5,000 in assets, and by 1922, he had grown the company to more than $400,000 in assets. That year, Herndon also changed the name of the company to Atlanta Life Insurance Company. The company expanded throughout the southeastern United States and acquired other companies as well. He had a mission to build confidence in black businesses and save jobs for African American men and women. These moves made Atlanta Life one of the most successful black businesses in the country by the mid-1920s. Herndon was also a founding member of Booker T. Washington's National Negro Business League in 1900 and one of the original members of W.B. Du Bois-led Niagara Movement. Herndon died in Atlanta on July 21st, 1927, a few weeks after his 69th birthday. He overcame poverty and illiteracy and rose from slavery to become the wealthy head of a leading black business that has survived into the 21st century and is consistently listed among the top black financial companies to this day. Number 3, John Merrick. John Merrick was an American businessman, community leader, and the founder of the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company. He was born on September 7th, 1859 in Sampson County, North Carolina. And by the age of 12, he was working in a Chapel Hill brickyard and learning to read and write in a local Reconstruction school. Merrick eventually became a brick mason in Raleigh, where he even worked on the construction of Shaw University. The uncertainty of his trade forced him into a Raleigh barbershop as a bootblack, but he quickly advanced to barbering and acquired a partnership in the business when it moved from Raleigh to Durham. And by 1892, Merrick had assumed full ownership of the business and had expanded it to include 5 other barbershops in Durham, North Carolina. With the support of prominent businessmen in Durham, he also began a real estate development business devoted largely to constructing housing for the waves of black migrants seeking employment in the area's burgeoning tobacco industry. In 1898, Merrick took the lead in launching the North Carolina Mutual and Provident Association, which in 1919 was renamed the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company. This became the largest black business in the United States. The North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company was established to provide assistance to black families of modest means at a time when white insurance companies would not. During its first year, less than 500 premiums were generated by the company, and it didn't turn any profit at all until after its 4th year. Now, throughout these tough years, Merrick remained committed to the success of the institution and its purpose, serving as the president from its founding until his death on August 6 of 1919. By 1920, a year after his death, the firm had offices in Virginia, Washington, Maryland, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. The company's assets also topped $1 million, and it was the first black-owned insurance firm to reach that mark. By 1956, it had rocketed to $54 million. That's $500 million today, by the way. In 1966, the company's $5 million headquarters was dedicated with hundreds of national and foreign dignitaries, including the Vice President of the United States, Hubert Humphrey. The firm remains in Durham to this day with total assets of $162 million and net life insurance of $14.3 billion, 124 years after John Merrick started it all. Number 4, A.G. Gaston. A.G. Gaston was a successful American business owner from Alabama. Born Arthur George Gaston on July 4, 1892 in Demopolis, Alabama, he spent his early years with his grandmother in Demopolis since his father had died shortly after his birth and his mother worked for a cook for a wealthy family that lived about 25 miles away. He began to develop his entrepreneurial skills at a young age by charging neighborhood children admission in the form of pins or buttons for the privilege of playing on a swing in his grandmother's yard, which, by the way, was the only one in the neighborhood. At age 13, he joined his mother where she was working in Birmingham, and she enrolled him into the Tuggle Institute, which was a privately run charitable school for African American students founded by education and legal reformer Carrie Tuggle. The school was often visited by educator and reformer Booker T. Washington. And Gaston, inspired by Washington's message of individual initiative, he began to grow restless, and he ended up leaving the Tuggle Institute after completing the 10th grade. After taking on several odd jobs, he enlisted in the military and purchased a property using the monthly earnings that he got while fighting in World War I in France to keep a mortgage current. After returning from the war, he worked as a driver and as a miner, saving 2/3 of his income, and he began even lending money on interest to coworkers at a 25% interest rate. By 1923, he had saved enough to start his first business, the Booker T. Washington Burial Society. The objective was to assist low-income blacks in affording funeral services, and the members paid a weekly membership that would allow those services to be covered upon their death. The society's success led Gaston to establish in 1932 the Booker T. Washington Insurance Company, which offered life, health, and accident insurance to its customers. He was a shrewd businessman, and his acumen soon led him to add burial insurance, undertaking, casket manufacturing, and the sales of burial plots in a company-owned cemetery to the list of his services. As he continued to expand into multiple business ventures, he also quietly advocated for financial literacy in his community with his customers, as well as voting and civil rights, using his hotel in Birmingham as a meeting place for Martin Luther King and members of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Overcoming humble beginnings and racial discrimination, he would build a $40 million business empire, which included a savings and loan bank, a business college, a construction company, motel, real estate business, burial insurance company, 2 cemeteries, and 2 radio stations. In 1992, he was honored by Black Enterprise magazine as the Entrepreneur of the Century. Gaston died January 19th, 1996 at the age of 103. His contributions to the community remain to this day. Now, normally, as a Southern gentleman, I will put the ladies first. But I wanted to highlight this individual last, as she broke multiple barriers that warrant closing this segment with a small piece of her huge legacy. So number 5, Ernesta Procope. Ernesta Procope, aka the First Lady of Wall Street, transformed a storefront insurance brokerage in Brooklyn into America's largest insurance agency owned by a black woman, and the only black-owned insurance agency headquartered on Wall Street in New York. Ernesta Gertrude Forster was born February 9, 1923 in Brooklyn to immigrant parents from the West Indies and raised in the Bedford-Stuyvesant community. That's right, the same one Biggie rapped about, live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, the livest one, representing BK to the fullest. In fact, her first love was actually music. During her early childhood, Procope studied piano, and at 13, she actually appeared at Carnegie Hall. She showed a lot of promise as a piano prodigy. But after high school, she went to college. She attended Brooklyn College for a year, and she ended up marrying Alban Bowman. And she began to help him to oversee the insurance portion of his real estate business. When her husband died, she launched E.G. Bowman in 1953 in her Brooklyn neighborhood. And the former Mrs. Bowman ended up marrying John L. Procope, an advertising executive and publisher with the Amsterdam News. She actually met him on a blind date. She then began brokering policies for local small businesses and homeowners and advocated for Black Americans who couldn't be insured by other agencies. Remember, this is a time when major insurers wouldn't underwrite policies for Black consumers, not only in Brooklyn, but around the country. So what Procope's firm did, she did things like hire limousines to bring executives into the neighborhood from Manhattan to show that community and how it was alive. Not only was she a trailblazer for Black people and women in the insurance sector, she was also a real estate tycoon and was nationally acclaimed for her development projects in Brooklyn, New York. She grew her firm from 3 employees focusing on home and auto insurance to a 33-person full-service insurance brokerage, and in 1979, Procope made history when she relocated her business from Brooklyn to 97 Wall Street. Eventually, E.G. Bowman became the largest Black-owned and women-owned insurance broker in the U.S., while also becoming the first African-American-owned business to be located on Wall Street. Some of the firm's clients included the New York City Housing Authority. She also worked on the United States portion of the Alaska Pipeline. Some of her other clients were IBM, Avon, Philip Morris Companies, now Altria, General Motors, Anton Water, PepsiCo, just to name a few. Procope passed at her home in Queens on November 30th, 2021, leaving a legacy and impact that will be felt for generations to come. I hope you enjoyed this content in this video today. If you did, once again, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. And just remember, with all these great pioneers, if they did it, you can do it too. But first, you should get a license. Thanks for watching. Take care.